Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we are going to discuss one new topic. Chapter number 1.4, Human Evolution and the Emergence of Man. Chapter number 1.4 in paper 1 of anthropology. That is a human evolution and the emergence of man. Human evolution and the emergence of man. So in that, right, we have biological and cultural factors in human evolution. This particular thing I will not teach now. So when you finish organic evolution, I will just ask you whether you are in a position to answer this. Okay, biological and cultural factors in evolution. Then we have theories of organic evolution, pre-Darwinian, Darwinian, and post-Darwinian. And see, by mentioning pre-Darwinian, one thing is clear, Darwin was not the first to speak about evolution. There were many scholars who earlier proposed a number of theories about evolution. We had catastrophic theory, Lamarckism, etc. So we will discuss about Lamarckism, then Darwin's theory of evolution, and then in the post-Darwinian theories, let us discuss the synthetic theory of evolution, which is also called as neo-Darwinism. It is also called as neo-Darwinism. Then we have brief outlines on terms and concepts of evolutionary biology, rules and concepts in evolutionary biology. Dole's law, Gauss rule, Cope's rule, parallelism, convergence, adaptive radiation, and the mosaic evolution. Let us do this first before discussing Lamarckism and Darwinism. Okay? So first let us discuss the rules and the concepts in evolutionary biology. If you ask me, I'll tell you openly. This topic is meant for 8th standard school kids. 8th standard school kids. Okay? So do not fear that there is something, some big science here. These are meant for 8th or 9th class, 9th standard school kids. Okay? So the first rule in evolutionary biology, number 1. Dole's law. Dole's law. This is a very simple law. This law states that evolution is irreversible. Evolution is irreversible. So before that, let us once again discuss what do you mean by evolution. Evolution means change. And the changes produced by the evolution, right? These are in respect to or with respect to a stimuli or a stress from the environment. It is the stress from the environment which makes an organism to change or to evolve. If there is no stress, if everything is fine, No organism will think about adapting themselves into some other new form. So evolution means change. This change, right, is with respect to a stress from the environment. With respect to a stress from the environment. So the changes produced by the evolution, right, are always progressive. It will make an organism to better adapt, to better equip in a new environment. So for example, you all are preparing for civil services examination. So what is the need for you to prepare for this examination? Suppose if the population of the entire India is 50,000, population of our entire country is just 50,000. Okay, so now there are abundant resources. Anybody can do agriculture, anybody can do hunting. And now, is there any need for someone to prepare for this examination to become IAS? No. There are abundant resources available, surplus resources, and population is very much limited. There is no much competition, and you can have a happy living with whatever you have. But now the population of the country is more than 130 crores, and there is competition for every single thing. And everyone aspire to become powerful so that they can now. Power means in relation to other. Everyone wants to make a good career in their life. So there is a stress from the environment which makes you, which wants you to become powerful, which wants you to think about having a better career so that your life will be so prosperous. So now you are in a particular stage and you are preparing for this examination. Soon you will become an IAS officer. I wish you all to become an IAS at the earliest possible time, in less than 2 years. Hope you will. And once when you become an IAS, right, I will come to see you all in Labasna during the India Day celebrations. Okay? Okay. So this is an evolution within your lifespan. From one stage, you have reached another stage. So after this, your life is going to change. So once when you are posted in a district, they'll make it sure that you'll be provided with all adequate services. You will not be allowed to take any public services like public transport, etc. So once again, right, you cannot think about coming back to this stage. Once again, you cannot think about coming back, traveling in public transport, okay, eating in ordinary eateries. No. So this is what Dolo's law speaks. Dolo's law states that evolution is irreversible. Evolution is irreversible. Okay. So every organism lives in a given environment. This is the environment. And one organism lives here. There are multitude of factors which influences this organism. It is not just one or two factors. There are number of biotic and abiotic factors which influences this organism. The abiotic factors like the land, water, sunlight, and temperature, wind, a cyclone, storm, etc. There are a number of abiotic factors which will influence this person. Similarly, there are number of biological factors also. The vegetation of this region, the vegetation of this region, the pathogens, predators, and parasites. We call it as triple P. The microbes, the other living organisms. So it's not just one or two factors. There are multitude, there are few hundred factors which influence one organism. And if this organism is capable of dealing with all these components, or if it is capable of adapting to this environment in which if it can adjust to all these factors, then only an organism can survive. If there is only one factor which threatens the survival of these organisms, then the organism cannot survive. For example, now there is a threat because of the COVID-19. See, coronavirus is not something a new virus. It's a very common virus. And for most of the kids, right, at a very young age, during the infant stage, in the first year, whatever infection they get, right, infection and cold, and that will be largely because of coronavirus only. But this COVID-19, right, it is a genetically engineered one, which has some four sequence of positively charged amino acids. And many scientists claim that naturally it is not possible for a virus, a DNA strand to have four such positively charged amino acids in a sequence. So many claim that this is a genetically engineered version. But still, this particular virus is just a one single factor, right? This poses a threat on the survival. So now human beings need to evolve to next stage to deal with this pathogen. We are taking vaccine. By this vaccine, right, we are able to produce some antibodies in our system. We can deal with the pathogen. So we are changing now. We are changing our we are changing our biological composition to deal with the pathogen. So just one microscopic factor, even a microscopic factor, right, are capable of influencing the life of organisms on the earth. So it's not just one or two factors. There are hundreds of factors which actually influences the survival of the organism, the environment, the temperature, the climate, the weather, rainfall. Okay, so everything influences the life of an organism. So once when environment changes, there is a need for the organism also to change or to evolve to adapt to the new environment. So in a changing, see, environment keeps changing. Environment keeps changing. This we need to keep in mind. Okay, the environmental factors were never constant. The environment kept changing in the past. Kept changing in the past. I told you how the four important ice ages influenced the life on the earth during the Pleistocene period. The last 1 million years it happened. 4 times our earth has experienced ice ages. Has experienced ice ages. So in every single ice age, right, climate will change. So we get glacial, interglacial, glacial, interglacial. So one type of vegetation gets replaced by another type. So when the environment changes, even the organism need to change to adapt to the new environment. And if it cannot adapt, simple, the organism will become extinct, will disappear from the environment. Okay. So with the changing environment, organisms on the earth also change or adapt. So organisms keep changing. This is evolution. So evolution keeps occurring at a constant rate. And these changes, right, are largely irreversible. For example, from Ramapithecus, Shivapithecus down, right from Australopithecus, we have evolved to human beings. Australopithecus got evolved into Homo habilis. Homo habilis got evolved into Homo erectus. This Homo erectus, right, further it got evolved into Homo sapiens. In every stage, right, there was a peculiar environmental condition which forced the organism to evolve further. I also told you there are two variations in Australopithecus. One is gracile, another one is robust. I told you robust is a gigantic form of Australopithecus, and when there was a change in climate, the short and slender gracile Australopithecus could run very fast. It could hide itself in cracks and crevices to protect itself against the cold. But that was not the case with the robust. Because of its gigantic size, it couldn't run very fast. It couldn't protect itself against the cold. And finally, robust became extinct. And it is the gracile form of Australopithecus which evolved into Homo habilis. Homo habilis got evolved into Homo erectus and to Homo sapiens. Sometimes, right, the condition in which the Homo habilis lived, right, this condition may reoccur. But even if this condition reoccur, we cannot expect the Homo sapiens to go back to this stage. For example, for the primitive apes, canines used to be, or the lower jaw. Lower jaw used to be very large and massive without a chin. In the course of evolution, it becomes smaller, 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 and for human beings, right, it is a small, perfect lower jaw with a chin. So this change, right, is evolution. It happened because of a particular stress in the environment, or change in the environment. So the change in the environment made this organisms also to evolve and to change. So once again, right, the same condition of the past, right, it is impossible first of all because it is not just one or two factors. There are hundreds of factors which are present in the environment and which influences the life of an organism on the earth. The same hundreds of features, right, may not replicate once again, cannot reoccur once again, and even by rarest of rare chance, there is even no theoretical possibility for such a thing to happen. And even if it happens, we cannot expect this organism to reverse back. So evolution is largely irreversible. This is Dollo's law. Next is the Cope's law, a very famous law. This law states that animals during the course of evolution tend to increase in size. Tend to increase in size until nature impose a restriction on this size increase. and this size increase. So animals during the course of evolution tend to increase in size until nature imposes a restriction on this size increase. Dinosaurs were a very good example. Dinosaurs, right, because of the abundant availability of resources, they became larger and larger. They become huge animals. On one fine day, there was a restriction from the environment and they couldn't survive. There was one meteor which struck the earth. And our bad luck was it fell on a landmass. It fell on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. And it created a huge crater. And it was not just the impact of the meteorite, and this impact created huge waves, huge tsunamis. And it is not just this impact which resulted in the extinct of dinosaurs. It happened some 66 million years ago. That meteor strike, right, it was followed by a number of subsequent events. There were a number of small burning particles which came and fell on the earth. And it created a number of volcano-like condition. Even that meteor strike that created a huge volcanic eruption-like events. And the subsequent falling of particles, right, what happened? It was just like a nuclear winter. Just like a nuclear winter. So nuclear winter means suppose if you go for a nuclear war. If we continue to explore nuclear weapons on the Earth's surface, what will happen? Our Earth will be surrounded by a layer of smoke. And the smoke, right, will not allow even the sunlight to pass inside. As a result, right, the climatic conditions of the Earth may change very rapidly, and that may lead to a big catastrophe. This we call it as nuclear winter. Similarly, what happened now on the Earth's surface, there were number of small volcanic eruption because of the meteorite strike and subsequent fall of debris. As a result, right, smoke and soot started enveloping the Earth, and sunlight couldn't manage to penetrate for a few hundred years. The climate became freezing inside throughout the earth, right? Climate became so freezing, and there was an abrupt change in the climate. This climate change, right, resulted in change in large scale vegetation on the earth's surface, and close to around 60% of the animal species became extinct. This was the fourth such event on the earth's surface. Fourth mass extinction. Earlier it happened in Devonian Silurian period. It happened in Carboniferous period. So there were a number of times, right, this mass extinction happened, and this was the fourth such event. And it took close to around another 6 to 7 million years for dinosaurs, for not dinosaurs actually, for rhinoceros to come back, large sized animals to come back on the earth. Okay, so this was one example in the past, and currently there are a number of examples to show. See, tiger is a very good example for this. So in the course of evolution, right, a tiger became larger and larger. Now it is a large, massive animal. Large, massive animal it is. Tiger. But the size of the tiger, right, now it is a very big threat for its survival. Earlier we had cheetahs in our country. India, our subcontinent is known for cheetahs. But cheetahs were hunted to extinction. They were hunted. They were hunted by our colonial rulers and our royal princes as a hobby. But why they managed to finish cheetahs? Why not a leopard or a tiger? Mostly leopard and tiger, right? They used to camouflage themselves in the environment, and it is really very difficult to spot a leopard or a tiger. Once there is one resort run by government here. We call it as jungle lodges and resorts in the that was run by government of Karnataka, Karnataka Forest Department and Karnataka Tourism. They both manage that. Once I was having lunch with my friends there, and while just having our food, there are a number of portraits about the wild animals there. There was one portrait, right, in which my friends were looking at leopard there. I also went there. Oh, how nice that leopard, man! My one of my friends said, "Hey, not one leopard, man, two. Yes, two. I could see only one man in that. I see properly, man. See properly. There are two leopards in that. There are two leopards, not one." Then the resort manager was watching that. He came to us. He took a stick and said, "Sir, can you see these? There is one more leopard here." The way in which that leopard got camouflaged in that tree, right? We couldn't identify. It looks like the tree bark. On the other hand, cheetahs, right? Cheetahs have one habit actually. Cheetahs generally, right, roam in open land, and they need a large stretch of open land where they can run, chase and capture its prey. So it is very easy to spot a cheetah. So our hunters, they hunted and they made this animal extinct from the subcontinent. Now we are taking steps to artificially introduce the cheetahs into our country, but we do not have forests to accommodate them. Because wherever we have herbivore stocks, already we have carnivores, and most of the carnivores are uh, apart from lion, most of the carnivores are solitary animals. They are solitary. They live in isolation. A tiger used to demarcate its territory and it used to live there. So what happened to this tiger? Why its life is becoming so pathetic now? We have Project Tiger to protect these carnivores. So because of tiger, right, they have in the course of evolution they have become larger. They are so gigantic animals now, and but they need to hunt and eat, right? And hunting is not that easy an activity. Once I had been to one zoological park and that official in charge of that park, right, he was there with me. I asked him, "Sir, why you are keeping these many, these are baby leopards." They had close around 20 leopards in that zoo and they have kept all those things in confinement. I asked, "Sir, you can release it in some forest, right? Why you are keeping it in the zoo?" He said, "These all are man eaters. For these leopards, hunting will not come by instinct. Its mother need to learn hunting from its mother. And if you throw them in the jungle, it cannot go and hunt. What maximum it will do is it will come out of the jungle and generally it come out of the jungle in search of dogs. Dogs are a delicious hunt for the leopards and tigers. But even dogs will run, right? And finally there is only one animal who cannot run very fast, human beings. It will come and prey on humans only, sir. There is no other option. These animals need to spend their entire life inside cages only. So hunting for a tiger will not come by instinct. It need to learn it from its mother. So whenever in a forest, if you see a group of tigers, so 3 or 4, mostly it will be a mother and its cubs, and its full-grown cubs maybe. So a leopard or a tiger need to learn hunting from its mother. and how difficult is hunting for a tiger. So when a tiger moves, birds, right, when they see them moving, they will give you alarm call. Once when birds give an alarm call will be so specific. I'll try to play a video of one alarm call soon. Okay, so the alarm call of for a tiger and leopard will be so specific, and sensing that, right, next monkeys will give alarm call, and if a monkey give an alarm call, a tiger will not think about going for hunting, simply it will go on sleep. Because once when herbivores are alerted, it will be very difficult for a tiger to go and hunt them. And apart from that, for the problem for tiger is one only one in a 10 attempt will be successful. One in a 10 attempt. So for a single attempt, right, it need to run, it will burn lot of calories with full energy it will run. And if the hunting, right, if it fails, then for the next 4 or 5 hours, a tiger cannot even think about moving. To that extent, it will become tired and it will just lay down that place only. So what's happening to our tigers? Because of the increase in size, right, it made its life so complex, and now survival of the tigers is at stake. It's really difficult for them. That's why most of the times we can see tigers venturing out of the national parks and the protected environment, and it may venture into human habitation, and it may kill human beings. Man-animal conflict, it keeps happening. So, Cope's law states that animals during the course of evolution increases in size until environment poses a threat on such increase in size. Okay? Okay then. So, next is Gauss rule. This is a very simple rule. It states that two different species having the same ecological requirement two different species having same ecological requirement cannot occupy the same niche for a long time. For a long time. So tiger is a solitary animal. Leopard is a solitary animal. Within a jungle, a tiger will demarcate its territory, and it will not allow any leopard to come inside. What it is to do, it is to pass research in the surroundings, and it makes it sure that urine smell of tiger will be so stinky. Oh my God. So it will not allow any other carnivores to come inside. This is a simple rule. So two different species having the same ecological requirement cannot occupy that place for a long time at least. Even if they are found together, it will be temporary. After some time, right, one will move out to some other place. This is Gauss rule. Next is a parallelism in evolution. Parallelism in evolution. See, there is one organism. Some organism. Okay. So generally within a population there will be variation. I'll try to tell you one example how variation helps in evolution. See about the mosquitoes. I still remember some 30 years back, we do not have all the liquidators which we use to kill the mosquitoes. All the liquidators which we are using currently to kill the mosquitoes. But slowly we started using some chemicals to kill these mosquitoes. The common chemical which we use to kill the mosquito, right, is a synthetic pyrethroid. It generally ends the name, chemical name, right, will end in rin, 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 allatrin, villatrin, etc. So these are synthetic pyrethroids which are largely safe to larger animals. Even if you drink, right, nothing will happen. Even to these insects, right, so it creates only knockdown effect. It will not kill the insects actually. It creates only knockdown effect. They will get fainted for some time. That's it. See, now there is a population of mosquito. Within this population, right, say 60 percentage may be susceptible to the chemical which you are using. And then the remaining 40 percentage, there will be 10 percentage of mosquito which may show extraordinary level of resistance. And the 30 percentage, right, a minimum resistant. So in this generation, all the 60, right, will get eliminated. And only this 40, right, will perpetuate to the next generation. Now in this, the 10 will become 30 now. So with the passage of time, even this may get eliminated. This particular population, right, which shows resistance to the chemical, that means which has some genes to deal with these chemicals, they alone will survive, and your chemical won't work properly on these mosquitoes now. So variations will always be there in organisms. So this because of the variations, right, one population may think about producing differences. So maybe after 1 million year, right, 4 distinct species may evolve from this. Utterly, for example, there was one ancestor from whom, right, monkeys, chimpanzees, gorilla, orangutan, this got evolved. So this will further get divided into number of other species. And this speciation will further continue. So now, maybe after some 50 or 60 million years, there may be some 20 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, some n number of species here. And all these species, right, all these species might have originated from one common ancestor. One common ancestor. And in this process, right, see, we human beings, monkeys, chimpanzee, gorilla, orangutan, okay, langur, etc., we all had a common ancestor. Okay. So with the passage of time, right, there was speciation, and one particular species got divided into multiple things, and everyone will get evolved in their own line. So when you take one species here and one species here, they both will be altogether a different species, because long back the species got divided. But sometimes it happens, though the organisms, right, got separated long back, and if it continued to evolve in different direction, there may be one or two physical features which may still remain same, or which may still look identical. This is called as parallelism. The very good example for parallelism is tamarin monkeys. Tamarin monkey. So tamarind monkey, right? No doubt we human beings had a common ancestor with the monkeys also long back, maybe some 1 to 180, 140 billion years ago, we had a common ancestor. But we do not even know when the species got divided. But these monkeys evolved in a different line and we evolved in a different line. But even now, right, there are some similarities between human beings and the tamarin monkeys. The cephalic features. He is a tamarin monkey. The cephalic feature of a tamarin monkey, the head region, right? The anatomy and morphology is almost similar to that of human anatomy. Human cephalic features. This is one good example for parallelism. So in parallelism, we are comparing two organisms. Both the organisms might have had a common ancestor in the distant past. And in the course of evolution, these organisms might have evolved in different line. And even after evolving in different line, right, there may be one or few characters which may remain same or which may look identical. This is called as parallelism. In parallelism, the most important thing which we need to know is we are comparing two organisms which had a common ancestor in the past. So next is convergence. In convergence, we are going to compare two organisms. And both these organisms, right, will be totally dissimilar. That means they are totally unrelated. Both are totally unrelated. But sometimes it happens because of the similarity in their habits, similarity in their behaviors. They may tend to develop similar anatomical features and they may look alike. They may look alike. And we may tend to place both the organisms close to each other, though both the organisms are totally unrelated. The very good example for this is fish and whale. Fish belong to the phylum of Pisces. This is altogether different. A fish has nothing to do with a whale. Whale is a mammal. Whale is a mammal. A whale gives birth to young one and it feeds the young one using the mammary gland. Who are mammals? Mammals are those animals who have mammary gland. Using which they can feed the young ones. We human beings, we are also mammals. So whale is a mammal. But because of for the similar environment in which they live, even their body is streamlined. So we tend to place a whale close to that of a fish. We tend to place the whale close to that of a fish. This is called as convergence. There is yet another example. Have hummingbird and humming moth. This is a bird. Moth means a moth is an insect. Butterflies, right? Butterflies and moths, they belong to the same order. We call it as Lepidoptera. They both belong to the same order. Moths, right, generally we can see during night hours. Generally the skin will not, their wings will not have beautiful colored scales like the butterfly. And there are a number of difference between a moth and a butterfly. Moths are generally nocturnal while butterflies are diurnal. Even there is a difference in their body build and the way in which they rest their wings over their abdomen, even that varies. Okay. So, hummingbird and hummingbird, one is a bird, another one is an insect. We cannot even not trace for a common ancestor in the distant past. But because of the similarity in their behavior, that means both the hummingbird and hummingbird used to collect nectar from the flowers. They feed on the nectar of the flowers. While feeding on the nectars, what they used to do, they used to go close to the flowers, they used to fly there and they used to collect the nectar. So because of for the similar behavior, both right tend to look similar. But in fact, they both, one is a bird, another one is a moth. But we tend to place them close to each other. This is called as a convergence. See here, this is a whale. It's because it is completely aquatic. Its body is streamlined to make it move in the water. So it looks like a fish, but in fact this is not a fish. This is a mammal. Whale is a mammal. But because of similarity in behavior, we tend to place whales very close with fish. This is a hummingbird. This is a humming moth. See how a hummingbird looks. This a small bird. It used to be very small. It is similar to the sunbird which we see in our places. You can say sunbird. You can Google and see sunbird. There are a number of varieties in sunbird actually. Number of species. We have Lawton's sunbird. We have crimson sunbird. Okay. A hummingbird. See how it flies near the flower to collect the nectar. Even here, right, this moth, it stays close to the flower to collect the nectar. To collect the nectar. So the similarities in behavior, right, because of this we tend to place one insect close to that of a bird. To that of a bird. So this is one good example for convergence. Example for convergence. So next is the adaptive radiation. Adaptive radiation. See, adaptive radiation means a few organisms may disperse to different places, may migrate to distant places. There may be a different environment in that place. And when they continue to live in that environment, they may tend to get adapted to the new environment. And these organisms may become progressively dissimilar. May become progressively different, progressively dissimilar. I'll tell you one example. There are number of, in geography you might have read, continental drift, plate tectonics and continental drift. There are number of evidences to suggest that there was a time when Africa, Europe, this looks like Africa, right? This looks like South America, right? Okay. So there are number of evidences to show that the continent of Africa, Europe, and the America were together, and because of continental drift, right, one started drifting that side, another started drifting this side. There are number of evidences to show that. There is the mid-Atlantic ridge, which is a diverging plate margin, which provides some evidence. And the fossils found in this region, right, these are almost similar to the fossils of this region. And the geological structure of the rocks here, right, have some similarity with this region. So this all suggested that originally South America and Africa were a single landmass which got separated. Now see, in Africa we have the great Sahara Desert. Sahara Desert is known for camels. And in South America, you have the great mountain range, the Andes. Camels were prominent animals living in the cold Saharan, the hot Saharan desert. Few camels, right, managed to migrate to South America when the continents were close to each other. Were close to, I'm not saying when they were to, maybe they will be close to each other. Or sometimes the sea level might have dropped during ice ages. As a result, animals might have migrated here. So the camels might have moved here. And these Andes mountain ranges, right, these are tertiary fold mountains, and these are not more than 40 million years old. So maybe some 50 million years ago, this camel might have migrated here. When it migrated, this particular land, right, was might have been a plain or a plateau. And we know how the tertiary fold mountains were created in the earth's surface. So this landmass, right, get compressed and it started getting folded, and slowly, right, it emerged into tall lofty mountains over time. So the camels which were found in the surface, right, were also lifted along with the continental rise or along with the mountain building, and now few camels reached the higher elevation. Here the environment is altogether different, the climate is altogether different here. So they need to adapt to the new environment. The environment is very cold. Yes, it got adapted, and with the passage of time, this camel got converted into totally a different species called as a llama. Llama. This is a llama. Llamas, right, are found in the Andes mountain ranges of South America. Okay, Andes mountain ranges of South America. So originally, right, they were camels only, but after migrating to this continent, they reached altogether a different environment. So in order to survive in that new environment, they need to adapt themselves, and there were a number of evolutionary changes. As a result, this animal became progressively dissimilar from the original mass, that is camel. and now it looks altogether a different animal. This is called as adaptive radiation. Adaptive radiation. And even here, okay, okay, this adaptive radiation. Next is the mosaic evolution. Next is mosaic evolution. So, what do you mean by mosaic? So nowadays, right, when you construct a home, we prefer to have a marble flooring or at least some beautiful vitrified tiles. But some 30 years ago, vitrified tiles were not very common, and people used to go for mosaic flooring. Okay, the mosaic, right, means there's something which is irregular. So generally, right, in mosaic, there will be some chips, and the chips will have some irregular shape, but it's some beautiful colors, and they used to polish it to make it look so attractive. So mosaic means something which is irregular. So mosaic evolution means it states that evolution is largely inconsistent, or see, evolution is largely not uniform. Sometime, right, the evolution may affect our head. Sometimes evolution may affect the locomotion. There is one good example. So you can see Australopithecus. So Australopithecus, right, the locomotion of Australopithecus is close to around 70% it is similar to that of human locomotion. Australopithecus had an erect posture. Australopithecus had an erect posture and bipedal locomotion. But the cranial capacity of Australopithecus was less than 530 cubic centimeters. That means just one third the size of human brain. That means evolution in locomotion happened ahead of encephalization. Encephalization. That is development of head and brain. So the development of head and brain happened in a later stage, while locomotory changes happened before that. So sometimes evolution may affect the head region, sometimes evolution may affect our locomotion, sometimes evolution may affect the digestive system, and sometimes evolution may not occur for a long stretch of a period. So this is called as mosaic evolution. Mosaic evolution. So guys, now you should be okay with the concepts and the rules in evolutionary biology. Dole's law, Cope's law, Gauss law, convergence, parallelism, adaptive radiation, and the mosaic evolution. So now let us move on to the next topic, that is, let us discuss some theories in organic evolution. So most importantly, let us start from Lamarckism. Lamarckism, right? This is a topic meant for 7th class students. Once during my examination, when I was preparing for this, my neighborhood, there's one small girl. She came to my home and she was looking at this. Bhaiya, what you are reading? Brother, what you are reading? You are so grown up and you are reading this. Last year I did all these topics in school. So here Lamarckism. So Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. He was a French doctor. He, in the early part of the first decade of the 19th century, proposed a theory of evolution. So, what actually impressed him was the number of similarities between the organisms and the animals which he studied, and there were also a number of increasing number of availability of animal fossils and human fossils. So he came to a conclusion that life on the earth is not a static. Life on the earth is not fixed. So every organism, right now, when environment changes, every organism need to change to suit the new environment. Then only it can survive. So when environment changes, every organism need to change. They need to evolve to suit the new environment. Then only they can survive. If not, right, they will become extinct. They will become extinct. One very good example is giraffes. So this is a very common example given for Lamarckism. So originally, so giraffe, how tall these animals are. I was there in Mysore for some time. In Mysore Zoo, right now, they are maintaining some 10, 12 giraffe. Earlier, right, I used to cross that zoo. That time, right, even from the roadside, we can see the giraffes. I thought that they have kept some statue or they have kept some replica of a giraffe like that. Because I didn't imagine that these animals would be so tall and large. And on the day I went to the zoo to see these animals, oh my God, this was more than just a surprise. What a huge animals these are. How huge they are, 20, 25 feet they grow. Originally, right, giraffes didn't have a long neck, didn't have this elongated neck. Earlier, when these organisms were living in a rainforest type of vegetation, uh, foliage for them to feed, leaves for them to feed were available even at the ground surface. So they just used to feed on the herbs, shrubs, etc. And when there was a change in the environment, the rainforest type of vegetation got replaced by a savanna type of vegetation. Savanna land means in most of the savanna lands, we can see one important thing in savanna land. Savanna lands are grasslands and trees are found scattered here and there only. So now there is a need for them, that to the trees right to be very tall. So it forced them to do like this, to reach the leaves. And with the passage of time, the neck got elongated. The neck got elongated. So when the environment changes, organisms should also change to suit the new environment. So this is the main theme of Lamarckism. So Lamarck, right, elaborated his theory. His theory of inheritance is also called as a theory of soft inheritance. Theory of soft inheritance. Theory of soft inheritance. So he made four important principles or postulates. The first one is all organisms tend to increase in size. Tend to increase in size due to the internal forces of life. This is the first principle. In the first principle, Lamarck speaks about the role of environment. To take a banyan tree. How large and how massive these banyan trees are. There is one banyan tree near the Theosophical Society in Chennai. It covers 4-5 acres. How huge the trees are. But have you seen the fruit of a banyan tree? It is just like that of a grapefruit. And the seeds of the fruits, right, will be the size of the seed will be like that of a mustard, even smaller than size of a mustard. The small, minute seed, right, is capable of germinating, and if it reaches its full potential, it can become such a huge banyan tree. So every organism tend to grow in size due to the internal forces of the life. But environment should be, everyone plays a major role in making an organism to reach its full genetic potential. To make an organism reach its full genetic potential. To reach its full genetic potential. For example, let's say in a place, one seed got buried here. Not one seed, some 5 seeds or 4-5 seeds of a neem tree. So there will be some internal forces for the seed to reach its full genetic potential, that is to grow into a full-fledged tree. But for that, first important thing, environment should permit. There are a number of factors in the environment which should permit the seed to germinate. For example, there should be adequate moisture for the seeds to germinate. So without moisture, the seeds cannot germinate. But this is one very important characteristics, that is, a seed can remain dormant for a very long time. This is what made life possible on Earth. I told you about the fourth mass extinction when dinosaurs disappeared on Earth. So almost 60% of the animals on the Earth vanished, and it is the seeds, right, which survived, managed to germinate, and once when plants started coming up, it started producing oxygen, and once again life originated on the Earth. But we are merciless in clearing the forest. We need to give respect to the plants. We human beings are there on the earth largely because of these plants. Had these plants been not there, we might not have survived. So there should be some rainfall to make the seeds to germinate. And once when it germinates, there should be adequate space for the seeds to survive. So here not all the organisms will be, all the seeds will be capable of becoming a full-fledged tree. Only one, right, will manage to become a very big tree. So every organism, right, tend to increase in size due to the internal forces of the life. But the environment plays a major role in deciding how an organism can reach its full genetic potential. This is the first principle. The second principle is the formation of a new organ. Formation of a new organ. So according to him, right, the formation of a new organ is a result of a new need. It's a result of a new need. So if there is a new need in the environment, then new organs may develop. She gives number of examples. For example, the elongated or the new neck of giraffe. So there was a new need. So there was the organism. So the organ got modified into a new organ. Similarly, the digits of birds. Earlier, birds digits means its claw and fingers. It used to be flat. But using a flat digit, a bird cannot hold a twig or a branch to rest. So slowly the digits started becoming curved, and now we have curved digits. Now the birds have curved digits so that they can hold a branch. Similarly, the webbed feet of a duck. So ducks, right? If you look at other feet, it will be webbed. This allows them to swim easily on the water as well as to walk on marshy areas. Earlier, this feature was not found among the ducks, but due to a change in the environment, when in the most of the environment which they lived became marshy and swampy, they developed this new organ. So the formation of a new organ is a result of new need, which is maintained in the body of the organism. Then his third principle is the theory of use and disuse. This is third principle or third postulate. In this, he says that whenever an organ is used continuously, whenever one organ is used continuously, it tends to get evolved. And whenever an organ is not used continuously, it may get atrophied. Atrophied means becoming useless. The very good example for this is the human eyes. Because of continuous use, our human eyes were evolved to such an extent. What a fantastic organ it is. No modern camera is a match to our human eyes. So we may use a digital SLR camera for shooting. Suppose if you find a moving object. So suppose if you find a bird which is sitting in a tree, a beautiful bird. You can have one setting, you can zoom your camera and you can shoot that. Suddenly when you see some other animal which is running fast, we need to change a number of settings. Change the shutter speed, ISO, okay, aperture, and then turn the camera, focus it again, and then shoot it. Suddenly, if you find some other object in darkness or in shade, once again, you need to change the settings and you need to shoot that. Many say, sir, what is that? We can use one phone to shoot all these things, right? Where we won't change any settings. But without changing settings, we won't get a proper picture. In many even ask me, sir, what is the need to have a DSLR when we can shoot everything using a handheld smartphone? Yeah, you can use a smartphone to shoot everything. But I'll tell you one small thing you try to shoot using your smartphone. Suppose there is one bird. That bird is sitting in a tree branch or maybe in a electric cable. and behind that there is a bright blue sky. You try whatever you can and try to shoot that bird, you can never get a bright image of that bird. That bird will always become very dark and you cannot even see the bird because the brightness of the sky will influence the picture. So here once when you have a DSLR camera, you can change the settings. You can change what exactly you want to view. Just by increasing the exposure level, we can get an image of the bird. So how many things, but on the other hand, think about our human eyes. You can zoom there, suddenly you can zoom here, you can zoom there. You can watch a running object, you can watch a stationary object. To what extent human eyes are evolved? This is largely because of continuous use. So if an organ is used continuously, it tends to get evolved, and if it is not used continuously, then the organ may get atrophied, that means become useless. One good example is human appendix. I read one funny post recently. There was one surgeon, it seems. That surgeon, he was a voracious reader. He goes to a library, he takes book from the library, and whenever he returns that book back to the library, he used to tear away the last 2-3 pages and he used to give it back to the library. The librarian noticed that many times. So once he called him and asked, Doctor, you are such an educated person, but I don't know why you are doing, why you are damaging the book and why you are giving it back to us. His answer was, Madam, I am a surgeon. Whenever I see appendix, right, my hand will automatically go to cut that. So appendix, right, is a small organ found in our intestine, and that is largely atrophied and it is useless. And sometimes, right, it largely contains some microbes, and it may discharge the microbial content into our intestine, creating a condition called as a peritonitis. That creates too much of pain in the abdomen, and we need to operate that immediately to remove the appendix. If not, it may be lethal. It may be lethal. So here, this appendix, right, there was a time when it had a greater role in the intestine. Say some 1 million years ago or some even 50,000 years ago, when our human ancestors used to eat unprocessed meat, hard nuts. Our digestive system, right, is not capable of completely digesting all this food which he is eating. So in the lower part of the abdomen, this appendix is a source for microbes, bacteria, and these bacteria will be released into the intestine, and these bacteria managed to digest or to decompose the undigested food. Undigested food. But with the passage of time, when we started eating processed food, when we started having cooked food, that need for that hardly arises. So most of the food, right, gets digested in the stomach itself, and there is no need for the appendix to act on the undigested food materials. So this organ became useless, and with the passage of time, it got atrophied into a small mummified, a small organ. So this is a very important postulate given by Lamarck. Theory of use and disuse. Whenever an organ is used continuously, it tends to get evolved, and whenever an organ is not used properly, it tends to get atrophied. It tends to get atrophied. These all are okay, but the last principle or the fourth postulate which he gave was slightly controversial. Slightly controversial. That is, Inheritance of acquired characters. Inheritance of acquired characters. So according to Lamarck, so all the characters acquired by an individual during his lifetime. So whatever characters which we acquire, right, will be preserved, accumulated, and will be transmitted to the next generation. To the next generation. If somebody falls down or by mistake while shaving, if they shave off the ears also. This loss of an organ, right, is an acquired character. Is an acquired character. So somebody falls down, if they break their hand, and if some deformity happens in the hand, it is an acquired character. So according to Lamarck, all the sum total of all the acquired characters, right, will be preserved in an organism. Okay, it will be accumulated and it will be transferred to the next generation. This is something a very controversial thing. So many scientists, right, did lot of experiment to disprove that this is not always the case. The most important being the Weissman's experiment with the rats. So what he did, he selected a pair of rats. And he cut its tail. After cutting its tail, he managed this both to mate. And all the newborns, the next generation, right, they were born with tails only. He selected one pair in this. And again, after cutting the tails, he managed to mate. The third generation also, all the babies born were having tail. He continued this experiment for 21 generations and still he couldn't manage to find newborn rats without tail. Without tail. So he disproved Lamarck's theory, stating that not all the characters acquired by an individual will be inherited, will be transmitted to the next generation. Will be transmitted to the next generation. About this experiment, I read one post there. One research scholar, one great scholar, he was doing an experiment with a frog. He was doing an experiment with frog. So what he did, he one fine day he came to demonstrate his experimental results. So in front of the other scholars, right, what he did, he cut one leg of the frog and he asked the frog, jump. That frog, it managed to jump with 3 legs. Then he did cut one more leg and he asked the frog to jump. Somehow with 2 legs, that frog obeyed his order and managed to jump. Third leg also, with one leg, somehow it managed to roll the other side. He cut the fourth leg also and he asked the frog, now you jump. It couldn't jump. and he gave a research conclusion. If you cut all the four legs of a frog will become deaf. It cannot hear anything. It cannot hear your orders. Great scientist. Uh, See, Weissman not disproved this particular principle using his experiment, that the sum total of the characters acquired by an individual will be preserved, accumulated, and transferred to the next generation. But there were few who did some experiment to prove that some element of truth is there behind this principle also. For example, Brown and Sequard did some experiment and provided some evidence for this actually. They explained some diseases like diabetes. Then hematoma. And even some type of, okay. So these diseases, right, once when a person acquires in his lifetime, this becomes genetic. And he'll transfer that to the next generation. He'll transfer that to the next generation. So now we are seeing number of people suffering from diabetes in South India. Their parents may also have the disease, but not their grandparents. Not their grandparents. So what happened? This was not originally found in the gene pool, the genes for diabetic mellitus. But in one generation, right, because of their lifestyle and because of the stress which they took, they might have become diabetic. And once when they become diabetic, in the next generation also they can see their kids also will be having diabetes. Same is the case with hematoma. Hematoma is a type of blood cancer. If a person gets this disease, right, he will inherit or he will transmit these genes to the next generation also. So there is some element of truth in this fourth principle. There are few characters which if an individual acquire will also get transmitted to the next generation. Will also get transmitted to the next generation. Even Towers' experiment with cancer. This also proved that. Okay, there are few cancers which for people acquire right up, they are capable of inheriting that to the next generation. So what actually is the conclusion? See, not every single character acquired by an individual will be preserved, accumulated and transferred. I just used on mnemonic to remember that, PAT. You remember PAT means preserved, accumulated and transmitted to the next generation. Not every single character acquired, not every single character acquired by an individual right will be accumulated and will be transferred to the next generation. But there are a few characters, there are few changes if an individual gets right that may find a deep sitting in the genetic makeup. That is, these changes are capable of influencing the genetic makeup or the DNA to such an extent that these changes becomes or these characters becomes hereditary. It gets inherited to the next generation. So this is all about Lamarckism. This theory is also called as theory of a soft inheritance. And once when Charles Darwin promoted his theory of organic evolution, so this theory came under criticism, but we need to accept one very few thing, one very important contribution of Lamarck because he was the first to speak about evolution. He was the first to speak about evolution. That all the organisms are not static. All the organisms which came to earth, right, it didn't came to earth as such. Organisms keep changing. Organisms keep evolving. A dog didn't come to earth as a dog. A monkey didn't come to earth as a monkey. A buffalo didn't come to earth as a buffalo. All these organisms got evolved from some other minor forms. There were some other minor forms which were present in the past, and from these organisms only, right, our current organisms got evolved. And one most important thing which we need to know is both Lamarck and Charles Darwin, they had no clue, no idea about genetics, how the genes are getting coded, and after getting coded, how the genes are getting inherited. They have no clue about genetics when they propounded this theory. It was later, the next century only, Gregor John Mendel proved that there are genes. In fact, he didn't term it as gene. He called it as factors. So there are few factors which were responsible for the inheritance of the characters. And even the fossil evidence are not so great during this period, but with less human fossils, these people, Lamarck and Charles Darwin, they managed to propound a theory which was far, far, far ahead of their time. Just far ahead of the time. Okay. So in the next lecture, we'll discuss about Darwin's theory of evolution, and let us start to discuss the synthetic theory of evolution. For that, we'll be starting from the very famous Hardy-Weinberg law of equilibrium. Hardy-Weinberg law of equilibrium. So in that, I will give you some introduction about a few important concepts in genetics, like what do you mean by law of dominance, law of independent assortment, then what do you mean by homozygosity, what do you mean by heterozygosity, what do you mean by gene pool, what do you mean by a lethal gene, okay, what do you mean by genetic load, etc. So from here onwards, science will become a bit more interesting. Okay, so let us meet tomorrow. Until then, just revise all these things, and I hope you are comfortable with what we are discussing. Okay. Once again, I remind you, these science right are not certainly meant for you people who are preparing for IAS examinations. These are science meant for school kids. That's what makes the subject anthropology very, very, very easy. Okay. So let's meet tomorrow. Until then, have a great day. Thank you.